Welcome to Beyond Beauty, the Professional Beauty Association's podcast, where we take a deeper look inside the minds and the hearts of the amazing artists in our professional beauty industry and how you're all making an impact in the lives of so many. And I am so thrilled that we have finally been able to make our schedules come together and work so that we can have Ammon Carver with us today. Thank you for being with us. And it's been a bit since we have last been together, and you have some big changes in your life. And
just a couple.
Is with you right now. Congratulations on being a new dad. And I mean, if you can introduce us to your beautiful son, we would love to be able to meet him.
Hey, Gurgle Bubba Shish. That is going to talk for a second. This is Zach, everybody.
Hi, Zach.
Zach is not shy. Actually, Zach made his beauty industry debut at the North American Hairdressing Awards this last time. We had just finalized our adoption with him like a week prior. And so he ran around and was like, the talk of NAHA. And now he's been with us for 4 months and he is flourishing. He's about to start preschool here pretty soon, right, buddy? And so talk about life change and talk about perspective change. It's really for me, helped me kind of keep in mind, what is important, what is worth stressing out about, and at the end of the day, what am I doing all of this for? I knew, and I don't think that that's necessarily changed. I still have a very strong purpose for why I'm in the beauty industry, but it's now funneled through a different lens. It's now funneled through a generational lens that helps me remember that the actions that I make, the choices that I choose, he's going to see, and I want to be the type of father that he says my dad made either the hard decision or the right decision. But I constantly am thinking, is this going to be something that will make Zach proud when he sees it later? So, and he wanted so bad. I said, "Do you want to be on TV this morning?" And he jumped out of bed, and so I don't think we may have a little actor on our hands one day.
That's amazing. And I don't know, Zach, if you were just sharing with me some amazing life advice from a 3-year-old. And I think we all need to hear that again, if he's willing to share with us what that advice was.
Zach, can you say, what do we say if you have a bad attitude? Say, try, what do you say? Choose. Say it loud. Choose to be happy, right? Happy. Yeah, we always tell Zach that you have a choice. You can be cranky or upset. And in our house, he's a 3-year-old, so tantrums happens and stuff, and so that's okay. But
just happen as adults.
Exactly. We try to make sure that the energy in our home is a loving and safe and happy place. We can't always control what happens at daycare or at school or any of that kind of stuff, but we want to make sure that when he's home, it's a place of happiness. And so if he's having a tantrum, we say, okay, that's fine. Go to your room and you can do that there. But when you're ready to choose happy, then you can come be part of this. And so he's learning to take a breath and say, never mind, Zach, choose happy. And it kind of, we were talking earlier, Leslie, that's like a life lesson. If you could actually learn that early and just apply it through the rest of our lives, it would make life a lot easier for the rest of us, because we can all choose happy, every day.
For sure.
Okay, I'm going to tickle you. Hey, okay, I love you so much. You run upstairs.
Thanks for being with us, Zach. Bye.
Say bye. Bye. Okay, close the door.
Oh my gosh. I kind of want to interview kids for the rest of my life right now.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Love you. Oh, he is my heart. He's like,
oh my gosh. So how has it changed? I mean, it's been 4 months as a dad. I mean, how has that changed? I mean, you talked a little bit about your perspective and what you're doing in the industry, but really, what do you see really, Ammon is evolving now?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's putting, from an industry lens perspective, it's like, one of the things that I find more important than ever now is, I've always loved mentoring. I've always loved entering NAHA, for example, and entering competitions and seeing people that I get to work with do well. But I think, and I hate to admit it, but Leslie, you just got to be real with me here. Like I'm over 40, right?
Yay, welcome to the club, man.
I'm not that kid that I was when I first came on that was like, oh, the new kid. And although I haven't lost any of that technical skill or that creativity, there does come a time and a place, I believe, where a generation needs to take the place of like a leader and make space for the next generation to come up and either win those awards or fight hard to win those awards, but be coached and not compete with me necessarily, but like sponge from me and allow me to say, like, I'm not entering, but let me help you, let me guide you in the right way, because I think you'll know just as much as I will that there are hairstylists and beauty professionals, because I don't want to say hairstylists, beauty professionals in general, that take this seriously, and they know that their impact is something that is really, really impactful if they choose to make it that way. And if they choose to make this career something that can be life-changing, then it will be. But if they choose to just make it something that's like fun and like, yeah, and it always should be fun, but that it's lighthearted and it doesn't have that much meaning, then it won't. And so I think it's important for me now, as I'm raising my kid, that he sees me do hair and work that's for me, that means something. You know, I'm working on stories that are meaningful and that touch people's lives and that are involved with communities, and they aren't just blow dries and haircuts and, you know, things that are just kind of like, you know, fun photo shoots, but there's a meaning, and he may not understand them yet, but as we go back, he'll be able to see and understand the story and how maybe groundbreaking or how new or progressive that was for the time. Because if we don't start pushing it forward and setting the example for the next generation to do so, then it could very well become a superficial industry again.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, like, what do you see that might be missing, that now that you're in this new perspective and this new part of your career, that you think, man, maybe I could like fill that hole that I see in the industry and want to do that? Maybe I'm hinting out, what's coming up for you?
You know what's, I'm in that place too. I really am. And I wish I had a solid answer for you, because it's been a year of me going like, okay, where now? Like I've always had like this trajectory of like the impact that I want to make. Like since I met beauty professionals, since I met hairdressers, you know, I became, you know, obsessed with the beauty industry because one of my friends owned a beauty school. And I had no affiliation, interest in doing hair or at all, not at all. But I was in a dark place. People know my story. You know, I came out in a very, you know, conservative community, and I had a very hard time with self-love. And it was the people. It was the people and the heart and the spirit of the beauty professional to see the beauty in me and say, like, why are you looking at all that other stuff? Don't you see this? And so as I've grown in my career, that's been my purpose, is to say like, hey, if you've forgotten, all that other stuff doesn't really matter, because you're working on clients every day, but you don't realize that who you are and the changes you make in them causes this like ripple effect of like positive change around your community. And so where does that go, right? Where does that, you know, I've started I'm a co-founder for a nonprofit, which I'm very proud of. I think that's one area that I'd like to continue kind of like branching out and growing into something more impactful and bigger. You know, I take a few clients behind the chair, but I'm not the stylist anymore. That's, you know, behind the chair. That's not how I earn my bread and butter. Although I do believe it's important to do it so that you can relate with the stylists that are doing that. So that's a long way of saying I'm figuring it out. And I think it's okay. It's an okay answer to say that, you know, I'm in this place where I'm like, what is next for me? Like, is the next thing for me to get on, I don't know, to get on these boards, to get on these places where I can where I can like say, hey, this is the parts that I believe need to change, and have my voice be heard. And have, you know, the generation of people who have been leading, who are also looking for their next parts, that it just needs to kind of like keep growing, right? And so I've been entertaining with that idea. I think you and I have even talked about it. You're like, Ammon, so are you one day thinking about coming this way? And I'm like, maybe, you know. So.
NAHA committee, there's opportunities for you at PBA.
I'm entertaining all of that stuff because I just, you know, I love doing hair and I love the competition and I love the artistry of it, and that'll never go away. But I think more importantly, it's being able to pass on a legacy of something that this industry means something, and that this industry can do much more than the general population still realizes. They still think that we're just, you know, kind of like beauticians going, I'm gonna go get my hair done, you know, like they don't see the moments that we see, you know, those fulfilling moments. You know, you had mentioned once, I remember in a conversation where you said, you know, what are the fulfilling moments that you have with beauty? And for me, there's two, right? There's when you're working behind the chair and you have that fulfilling moment where that person sees themselves differently than they did, right? And it doesn't have to be a makeover. It doesn't have to be some big monster man, but all of a sudden you see them sit a little differently, and you see them walk a little differently, and the next time they come in, they're dressing a little differently, and you helped them see a little different side of themselves that they didn't know was even there. And that is like, I just unlocked a part of themselves that they didn't know was beautiful, and that is like, and then fulfilling number two for me, and I'll pinpoint it. This last NAHA, I didn't win any prizes, but I was so emotional because I think that, and I don't want to misrepresent because it just felt that way, but like, I felt like almost every acceptance speech up there, somebody thanked me for mentoring them and for helping them. And I was like, that is the most fulfilling thing in the world, to be able to feel like everybody up there that had won some kind of an award had said, thank you for helping me learn, thank you for pushing me to be here. And I was like, wow, that felt better than winning any trophy to me. So those are those fulfilling moments that I look for now.
That's awesome. Well, and I remember at Beacon a few years ago when we had asked you to be a part of it for our student program and wanted you to present. And afterwards, you said to me, wow, I don't know where that came from. I wasn't planning on getting so raw and authentic with myself. And it just started pouring out. But the students related to, like, that was like just a pivotal turning moment for Beacon, because what we've done now is encourage all of our presenters to like let yourself be vulnerable because of it. So how do you get to that place where you can, because it changed students' lives in that room who had similar stories?
I'm so glad. I've had so many students from that still reach out to me and talk to me, and they feel safe to DM me. And I think that social media is wonderful. It's so wonderful because we get to connect and feel like we're friends with people we've never even met. And it's like, this is so cool. We have this friendship and I don't even know you, and I'm inspired by your work. But it can also be incredibly intimidating. Incredibly like, you know, if you are comparing your work to other people, you just are like, I can't post that. Look at that compared to that. And so people don't share a lot because they think that their work sucks. And they're not willing to just be part of, like, this is a process, this is a growth process, and be vulnerable enough to like put it out there. That's why I've always loved competitions like NAHA. It's a vulnerable feeling. Entering for the first time is terrifying because it's the first time that you're gonna say, okay, I love it, but now I'm gonna put it out there and see if what I love, does the rest of the world think is ugly or do they think it's great? You know, and so anytime I practice this all the time. Not ashamed to admit it. Like I love therapy. My therapist and I are like best buddies. I process my feelings and my emotions out loud, and so it's important for me to be able to talk to him so that I can blah 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 blah, and then I go, oh, now I know how I'm feeling, and I don't have to hold it in. And so for me, like being able to be raw and be authentic and be vulnerable and not worry about like always delivering the message perfectly. People feel your intent more than they feel the actual words or the exact perfect, articulation of what you're trying to say. People learn more from your successes and the fact that, there was this time where I tried this. Please don't try it because I burned her hair off right to the scalp and I cried, and they'll laugh about it like that, but then also they're going to be like, nope,
don't self, don't.
And also if he did it and he's still there, like I'm okay, so being vulnerable is more of a strength than people realize. They think it's like showing their weak sides, where I feel like it's saying like, I recognize this about myself. I don't know how many of you guys can relate, but I'm saying it because I want to recognize it, and I'm saying that and that's one of those things I'm working on. And then that way nobody can hate on you because you're like, I know, and I'm working on it. And so what are they going to say? Yeah, you are terrible at styling. It's like, I know, I just said
I know, I'm trying. I agree with you. I'm not going to argue.
I said it first. You can't say it back. That's just mean. So
it's like Eminem and 8 Mile. Like, I'll make fun of myself first. You don't have anything else to say about me.
Yeah.
Because I know all of my Me
and Eminem, we talk all the time.
Hide him for me. That would be fantastic. What is your hope for the beauty industry as we continue? I mean, it's evolved a lot, probably even since you started, and we're around the same age. Like, I've been involved since my mom was a hairstylist in the 80s, and there's been a lot of changes, but it continues to evolve. And I'd love to see, like, what do you hope for this industry?
I just hope that the depth of it. I hope that the world is, without being ominous, right? The world is, it's scarier. The world is heavier. Things are a little bit more serious. Decisions that are making are like, so we have the ability to, be that, like that hope, that part of us that if we can organize and we can indeed link arms and rally together and be one, like as an industry that stands for something, and aren't competing against one another because we're manufacturers selling different products, but we're actually a unified industry that's trying to uplift communities and help communities. I mean, there's so many organizations. The nonprofit that I spoke of, it's called hu.MANE, Beauty for Change. I think we've talked about it before. But just going into a homeless youth shelter every 8 weeks with a team of people, you would be surprised. If you ask a hairdresser if they want to go and do some kind of like help like that, you will get more hairdressers that say yes than you can take with you. I have found that I've always had to say, sorry, roster's full every time. Because they want to be able to do that. They just need somebody to help them, which says to me, the hunger to help is still there. That's why people still become hairdressers. But when you go into some place like that, and oftentimes the kids in these homeless youth shelters, they're there because of sex trafficking or because they had gender identity issues at home and their families didn't accept them, and nobody ever taught them ever to look in the mirror or to see any kind of beauty. And most of them come in and they sit down and they will not look in the mirror. They will barely talk to you. And the slightest change will make your heart just melt when you see a person look and just see themselves as a person. I don't know who they see. I don't know what they see, but they see a person. And that they walk out that door and they're willing to be a person, whatever that person is, because of a haircut. And then you're like, if you're still here in 8 weeks, let's try something new. And then, I don't know if they become a barber. I don't know. I don't care what, but I want for them to look in the mirror and be able to say, like, I had a crappy first, a crappy deal in life, but look at me, like I can still be somebody. And a little bit of that a little bit of that with a lot of us all around the country does a lot of positive, like people looking at themselves going like, hey, like I can be a good person. Hey, I can make a different decision. And that's what I mean by like profound. What we do can be meaningful or it can be superficial. You know what I mean? And so if you can help somebody see something in themselves, and it doesn't have to be some, you know, motivational speech. I barely spoke to the guy. You know, I just, you know, did his hair and stood up and I go, that looks so good, dude. And that's all I said. And he just looked in the mirror. He was stoic, but he actually looked in the mirror and was like, he kind of nodded and he walked away. But I was like, because he wouldn't even look up before. And the lady that was there, she was like, that kid has never looked at himself in the mirror since he got here for 2 months. Wow. And so it's things like that. That's a small example of how we can get out there. What we ended up doing was going to like a shelter and leaving the salon for like the guests. But salon owners, stylists, suite owners, like don't sip out, like it's money is money, but also carving some time, a little bit of time, 1 day a week, you know, or something where you can find an organization where a couple hours you can go there. That's not about you. It's not about you, but it's about giving back, and it's about using what you have with your hands and with your hearts to make a difference in the community around you. And if we all did just a little bit of that, then what this whole country and what this whole world would realize is that the beauty industry has a lot more power than they realize.
That's it. Like I done. I also believe, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it, because this is one of the few professions where you lay hands on people, where the physical touch. I really believe, because I am an esthetician, and just that act of a facial massage or applying like touching people, touching them in other ways too. Like it's very different than
and it makes me a little bit emotional. Just because so recently I started to practice what I preach a little bit, and I found an organization for this group of people who have had brain trauma, and they are they need help keeping their houses maintained because their brain trauma isn't, you know, they can't do landscaping, you do some things, and so, you know, a couple days a week I go up and I'll just kind of like help them out and see what they need and stuff. And this guy named Bo, he was like telling me a story, and he said, I've never let anybody touch this, but I want you to see what this feels like. And he took my hand and he put my hand on his head where his skull had been crushed in. And of course I controlled my reaction. I was like, wow. And he goes, and he kind of got like, he goes, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, are you okay? And he was like, I've never let anybody touch that before other than the doctors. And I was like, do you want me to touch it again? And like, I was just like, it's okay. Like, did it hurt? And he goes, no, it felt really good to like have somebody like touch it. I said, yeah. I said, and I go, you know, I'm a hairdresser. And so then I made it less about like dissecting his, and I was like looking at his hair. And he just got emotional with me, and he goes, you know, and this is not to say me, but he was just like, you're a special guy. He's like, people come into this house and they look around and they get scared. I know that I live in a way that's like kind of gross to people. He's like, you didn't make me feel like I was embarrassing. I'm like, who am I? I go, whatever I can do to help. If you want a head rub, I'll give you a head rub. And he started laughing.
Start cutting hair. And
but it just, to me, like, we forget how we take for granted how few people actually don't, if they live lives alone, if they don't have families, if they don't have somebody, nobody touches them.
Yeah.
The power of actual physical touch from somebody else, just giving you a hug, just like giving your shoulder a rub when you're emotional, like that's transformative. Somebody to like comfort you. And so you're right, like the ability to actually have somebody like trust, like my massage therapist, when I'm laying down, he goes, I open up my chest and this is the most vulnerable position. He's just working like my chest muscles. And I started crying. I'm like, why am I crying? He goes, that's the most vulnerable place. You are just like opening yourself up to like, please like heal me or whatever. And I think that we take for granted that we hold emotion in our body, we hold memories in our body, all that kind of stuff. And we have the ability to kind of help heal and help bring those to surface in not a therapist type of way, but in a way that's like a release or a way of just saying like, hey, it's okay. I'm a touchable person. I'm a touchable, likable, lovable person.
Awesome. All right. Final question. Well, it might be final, and then who knows? Something else might spark.
I'm here. I'll talk all day.
This could be final. What is your next adventure? I know you said you're figuring things out, but is there anything kind of percolating that you can share with us? I know some people have said, well, I can't quite share yet, but
truly, I'm at this place where I'm just like, I have a blue sky horizon. I am I have Zach. So that's got me kind of like, my eyes are there. I have everything. It was like one day I woke up and I was like, all the things that you put on like your dream list, I was like, oh shit, I need to make a new one. And I was like, that's not a bad thing. Let's put a new one together. And so I don't know. I do know that I'm not going anywhere. I definitely am going to be around this beauty industry. I will tell you, this is the first time, and Leslie, you asked me once, and it has been in my head since then. And I'm like, when? I don't know when, but when is the time where I go from entering and being the NAHA guy every year to being the guy who's like, okay, now I make space for those people to do that, and I mentor and I help make sure that the rules or the fine tune, whatever part of that I can play. It's a hard one for me because
it is hard. I get it.
Love doing it. I love doing it, and maybe I'll still do it, and I'll just do it for me. So I think this year, right now, I'm in a place where I'm going to shoot.
Okay.
Whether I enter it or not will be determined not based on the quality of the collection, but dependent upon whether or not I feel like that's the way my life should be going. And I will keep you posted. Because I feel like the universe is kind of pulling me like new chapters. Things move in new chapters, and this is very significant, like new chapter. I live in Utah. I'm not in the epicenter of Manhattan anymore. My photo shoots are happening often, but not as often. I do content in my basement, which is fun, but it's not as like, it's not like the studio thing. But I still have the ability to spread the message and to be able to sit with experience and knowledge of 20 some plus years of
we always say that like it's a bad thing, but
no, I know, I'm proud.
Experience is a good thing, because I do the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, but you know what, darn it, that means we have like experience and knowledge. And
no, I know, and I'm proud of it, and I wouldn't trade a bit of it. I have had such a great ride. What a great industry. You know what I mean? I tell my friends who are they're not in the industry, and they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a hairstylist. And my husband's like, oh, come on. He's like, tell them. I'm like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, I don't know how to tell them like all this stuff. So, but I've been fortunate enough to work hard and be in the right places. And, if there's any advice that I can leave, because I know you always ask that too.
I always ask that too.
For any of you guys, and I think I have vulnerably said it at Beacon that day, is put yourself out there. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid of rejection. Do not be afraid of somebody saying no, or somebody saying you need to work a little harder. But be willing to take the elevator or to take the stairs and not the elevator. Social media feels like a fast track to stardom, and it's a great way to get your name visible. But if you don't have the foundation underneath it to fall behind it and the credentials and all of that, then you're just a number of followers without a whole lot of like meat and potatoes underneath it. And I've seen that happen in a few ways, and I'm really, really grateful that I grew up blood, sweat, and tears, uphill, snow both ways, whatever they call it. But before social media became a thing, because that's how you had to get your name recognized. You had to work and mentor and assist for hairdressers that paid their dues also, and they're like, you want to do this? Carry my bags for this season. And I'm like, okay, here I go. So anybody, I'm open for it. If anybody wants to come and shadow me and work with me, I would be glad to. I love to share. I believe wholeheartedly that holding secrets or holding techniques that are mine is just stupid. Like, if I learn something, I want to share it, and I want you to take it, and then I want you to make it yours. And that's how we progress, and we take things that are cool and we don't replicate them, but we evolve them. And so my advice to you, short and sweet, is do the work. Don't try to take the shortcut. Don't try to ask. Please don't DM me one more time and ask me how you can have a position like mine without all the work that I did. It's not a nice question to ask. Doesn't make me want to help you. But if you're willing to do the work, it can be a career that is so, like, it's just fulfilling beyond belief. It has filled my heart and my life, and my family sees it. And even my little boy at 3, who doesn't really understand why I have doll heads all over the place, is just like, he can just tell I'm filled with joy with what I do. So, and that to me is the most important thing.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for making the time for us and sharing. And I feel super inspired. I feel like my day is off to an amazing start because
choose happy.
Yes, I'm choosing happy today. Darn it. Thank you again. We really appreciate it and can't wait to see you soon at NAHA.
Thanks, Leslie. See you soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Goodbye.